A long time ago, a famous businessman and his son set out on a journey to a small town. As they walked, they realized that it was night, and they needed to stay. The son said, "Father, we should stop somewhere now. It is dark ahead, and the journey may be difficult." The father smiled, and both of them walked toward a small house nearby. This house belonged to a poor cobbler. The son knocked on the door, and a tired man came out. The businessman said, "We are travelers and need a place to spend the night. Can you help us?" The cobbler bowed his head and said, "Of course. I don't have much, but whatever I have, I will share with you." As soon as they entered the house, the father and son saw that there was extreme poverty there. Old shoes were kept in the corners, the walls were broken, and there were only a few dry rotis to eat. The father asked the cobbler, "How do you make your living?" The cobbler replied proudly, "I have an old box of tools with which I repair people's old shoes. This is how we run our house." The businessman did not answer and went to sleep. At midnight, the father woke up his son and said, "Come on, we have to do something." The son asked in surprise, "At this time?" "What happened, father?" The father said seriously, "We have to throw away this cobbler's box of tools." The son was left speechless. "But father, this is his only means of livelihood. He has nothing else left. How will he survive?" The father, without saying anything, picked up the box of tools and threw it into the nearby river. Then both of them left from there before morning. Some years later, the son kept remembering the incident of that night again and again. Filled with guilt, he reached the same city again to see how the cobbler was doing now. But when he reached there, he was shocked. Where there was a tattered hut earlier, there was now a magnificent leather shoemaking factory. Workers were busy all around, and big trucks were going out, loading shoes. Just then, a man dressed in fine clothes came out, with a gleam of confidence in his eyes. The son could not recognize him, but when he looked closely, he understood. This was the same cobbler. The son asked in surprise, "Do you recognize me?" The cobbler smiled and said, "Yes, I recognize you. And I was wondering where you and your father suddenly went after that night." That very night, my box of tools also disappeared. At first, I was heartbroken, but then I thought, what would crying do now? The cobbler further said, "I realized that I was always repairing old shoes. Never thought that I could make shoes myself. Out of compulsion, I went to the market, bought leather, learned new work, and gradually opened my own shop. Then with hard work and time, this factory was built." Tears came to the son's eyes. Now he understood his father's lesson. Sometimes we become so dependent on something that it hides our real potential. As long as we have that thing, we do not think about any other possibility. Real life examples. Steve Jobs. When he was fired from his own company, Apple, he laid the foundation of Pixar and Next. Later, this Next technology became the backbone of Apple's new operating system, and Steve Jobs was called back to the company. If he had not been fired from Apple, he would probably not have tried to do anything new. Thomas Edison's invention of the bulb. Edison failed thousands of times to make the bulb, but every failure forced him to think of a new way. If he had relied on just one experiment, the bulb would never have been invented. J.K. Rowling, author of Harry Potter, her first book was rejected 12 times. If she had stopped writing in the first place out of fear of rejection, the world would never have got Harry Potter. Friends, so think, is there any box of tools in your life too, which is preventing you from reaching your full potential?